What's going on, all you wild John Hughes enthusiasts? Your two favorite rascals are back here for Cinephellas, and we're going back for another 1980s classic film. We're going to be doing a little retro review of the film that we both grew up on and love, this comedy. We're talking about The Great Outdoors.
Dan Akroyd, John Candy. The Great Outdoors. Outdoor fun for the whole family.
With two familiar faces from the 1980s, Dan Akroyd and the man, the myth, the legend, John Candy.
John Candy.
The two comedic legends from the 1980s. You got John Candy being in a bunch of John Hughes films, and then Dan Akroyd, which is a huge comedic genius back then, Blues Brothers, SNL. The list goes on and on. Them coming together in this film that was directed by Howard Deutch, and he directed some other classic 1980s films, being Pretty in Pink, which you guys know, John Hughes as well, and Some Kind of Wonderful, which is a underrated film in the 1980s. But this time around, you have the character John Candy and his family. They're from Chicago, per usual. A great time to be alive in the Windy City back in the 1980s. Things were pretty happy and cheerful back then. They really depict that in a lot of movies. The family's always from Chicago. Griswolds. There's a bunch of movies, but they go on this little weekend getaway, get a cabin up in Wisconsin, even though it's clearly Northern California or Pacific Northwest. We don't have mountains in the Wisconsin. They go up there to relax, and his annoying brother-in-law, Dan Akroyd, shows up uninvited.
Yep, Uncle Roman shows up to ruin everybody's family vacation. Really shows up with his wife, played by Annette Bening, in her first role. And they sort of, throw the Chet's family for a loop. They come unannounced and come and cause chaos there. There's some hijinks that go on, obviously, between Dan Akroyd and John Candy that really make this film work. It's hilarious. Seeing Dan Akroyd's character, Roman, being like this yuppie kind of, he's drives a Mercedes. He's the big city guy, and he's kind of, likes to poke the bear, we'll say, with John Candy. But that beginning scene when, Roman and his family come into the cabin, and John Candy's Chet tells the story of the bear, Bart the bear, the bear there on the lake where they're staying, and, the whole legend of this bear. And he gets the family all riled up and scared on their first night. And things kind of devolve from there and get worse and worse for these two. They're playing practical jokes on each other and really trying to humiliate each other in true 80s comedy fashion, as only, John Candy, Dan Akroyd, and John Hughes can do with their, slapstick comedy. And, this movie didn't get a lot of love back in the day, but it's a classic, and a movie that, harkens back to that time, in a more innocent time, where families went to the lake, and then you had all the 80s music and all that kind of comedy that we don't see anymore in films. It's just a lovable film about these two buffoons, and some really funny scenes, when Dan Akroyd's Roman is on the boat, and Chet's trying to teach his son Bucky how to water ski, and he ends up going out on the lake in the water ski, and you see John Candy flying in the air off ramps, going over docks.
Clearly a stunt double.
Just these hilarious scenes.
He somehow managed to hold on for 5 minutes, where most people fall in 10 seconds. It's so ridiculous.
Right.
Like you said,
after he tells his son to just let go if anything goes wrong. Just remember, let go. He does the opposite and holds on for 5 miles.
Yeah, and all these 80s
nearly dies
classics.
a few times.
It's completely ridiculous and never happened. That's what makes it. That's why it has the charm. It just doesn't. It's silly, but it's a feel-good comedy. That's what they're there for.
It really does, and it feels good. And for the teenagers of the time, we got the little side story with his son meeting the girl who works at the A&W root beer place, and they kind of meet at this carnival that's going on. She is kind of being cold towards him, acts like she's too good for him, having this little romance blossoming over this weekend that they're on vacation, or this week they're on vacation. So that's another 80s kind of romance between teens, classic John Hughes writing there, with the teen romance there. They had to throw that in, of course, classic John Hughes. But this movie's, a movie that was great to watch over Father's Day weekend. We both, you had me download this and we both watched this, and it's just an enjoyable time, totally innocent, just some really funny scenes. Another scene from this movie that is very memorable is when John Candy and his family are out eating at the steak joint, and they bring out the big steak, and basically there's a contest. If he can finish it all, they give you like a free t-shirt and some hats and stuff. So of course John Candy finishes it to the last bite, this huge steak,
The old 96er.
The old 96er, that's what it is. And of course, it being unbelievable, he finishes it all, and at the end blows lunch everywhere, but he wins the prize and is the hero of his family, and even impresses old Roman.
Yeah, that's probably the most famous scene in the movie is the old 96er. We used to talk about that at work all the time. 96-ounce steak that just impossible to eat. You would die or puke. But for a big guy like John Candy, it's really memorable and funny. Yaks it all up. But it's a big part of the movie, and just brings a lot of comedic sense to it, and nostalgia for me. This reminded me much of growing up too. My dad and my uncle worked in the city, was loaded, drove a Lexus, kind of cocky, full of himself. And growing up watching this, he used to actually have a cabin in Wisconsin. We go up there and go skiing and all that. So very nostalgic for me, like revisiting my childhood and the clashing personalities. They're just kind of bickering like an old married couple back and forth and trying to outdo one another. And, it's just a mess. It's chaotic, and it just gets worse and worse throughout the film. So it just brought back a lot of childhood memories for me, and revisiting this, it still holds up. It's still a feel-good comedies they don't make anymore. And I really appreciated that. The bald-headed bear, Bart the bear, which was a big brown bear in a lot of movies back in the day. Famous bear was massive, a big part of this movie. Having to do with John Candy's character shooting him and him coming back and stepping on him and stuff. It's just a huge, massive bear. Another thing that's not believable, they don't have brown bears in Wisconsin. So they only have black bears, so not believable. But I thought it was pretty funny. But yeah, it was fun revisiting this. I had a blast.
There's a lot of heart in this movie, and it's all due to John Hughes writing, and with some memorable performances from two comedic legends, John Candy and Dan Akroyd. They played so well off each other here. Dan Akroyd's Roman being the cocky uncle, and then John Candy being the lovable Chet. He's he's like our dads, the lovable one. And then of course there's the uncle that's the jerk. But by the end of the film, they're able to work out their differences and sort of come together, and both the families leave this vacation happy and smiling. And it's a feel-good comedy. And The Great Outdoors, I really had a great time revisiting this. And like you mentioned, it reminds you a lot of childhood, and especially ours growing up. And, with this taking place with the families from Illinois, it hits extra close to home.
Yeah, the nostalgia factor. It's a fun movie to revisit, especially younger kids. It's summertime. Everybody's going camping, going on vacation. This is a fun movie to watch with the family. Both of us highly recommend it. Classic comedy from the 80s, John Hughes being one of our favorite writers and directors back then. Right here in Illinois, and just a lot of great films back then. And, it's something we need right now with everything going on with the world. We need good films to take our minds off of things. And this is definitely a good example of that. That being said, I'm going to give the classic from 1988, The Great Outdoors. I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5 John Candy hair pieces.
Just a fun movie to watch, especially during the summer months with camping and, going out on the lake and fishing and being with family. And like you mentioned, take your mind off what's happening in the world lately. It's crazy chaos. This movie goes back to a more innocent time, being with family and just having a great time and finding the heart of it all, and the heart and soul. And that's what John Hughes gave to this film. This one is, not one of John Hughes' most recognized and well-known films, but it's a movie that we both highly recommend, and a movie that you guys should view all the time along with John Hughes' other films. So with that being said, I am going to give The Great Outdoors from 1988 a 4 out of 5 Bart the Bear hair pieces.
So we're interested in hearing your guys' thoughts on the classic The Great Outdoors. What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? What's your favorite John Hughes film? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to click subscribe. Also, check out these wild hooligans right here on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and our website, Cinephellas.com, for the latest, greatest TV, movie, news, and reviews.
Well, we got the family all ready to go. Everybody's packed up. We got the fishing poles. We got our tackle boxes. We got our mosquito spray. We're ready to hit the lake. What do you say, Logan?
Logan optional.
Thank you guys for joining us for this classic review of The Great Outdoors. We'll be back very soon with some great reviews for you very soon. So until next time to go back to summer vacation for these boys. Cheers.
Cheers.